Navigating the Heart. Who is Dragging You? By Ock Soo Park. Chapter 3. Self-Control. Your ability to control yourself is the safety device to freely utilize your youth. It is the brakes that must overcome the engine. A few years ago, 3,000 college students from all over the world gathered in Korea for the IYF World Camp. At that time, I told them, Hyundai Motors can produce a car every 13 seconds. It's now every 5 seconds. One of our African students was completely shocked and said, "Pastor, how can you make a car every 13 seconds? That makes no sense." I don't know how, but that's what the statistics say. "But Pastor, how can a car be made in 13 seconds? Because of this, I had the students from the World Camp visit the Hyundai Motors factory. When I told Hyundai Motors that there would be 3,000 students visiting, they were shocked and said, "Please, just bring 1,000 per day." So we divided them into 3 groups and visited the Ulsan factory. I followed along on the first floor of the factory where they were working on the assembly line. Up towards the ceilings, they made walkways with safety bars for us to tour the factory. From up there, we could see the entire process of how a car was made. There was a conveyor belt installed on the assembly floor, and the car frame was placed on it. The frame would then be carried slowly along on the conveyor belt, where the technicians would work on the parts that they were in charge of. The first technician lays the electrical lines throughout the chassis. From the moment he starts until he gets off work, all he does is lay out electrical lines. The next technician places a cover on top of it. The conveyor belt moves on, and they install the seats into the car. It is a robot that does this. It is not easy to fit seats into a small chassis, but the robots put the seats in specific positions. They then begin to drill. The seats are bolted in, and the installation is quickly completed. Soon afterwards, they install the engine. Towards the end of the assembly line is the robot that performs all of the welding. This is how 30,000 parts come together to make a car. At the very end, the cars are fueled, driven out of the factory, and parked in a large outdoor parking lot. I actually witnessed a car being completed in approximately 1 minute. If there are 5 conveyor belts such as this one, then it is true that a car is being made every 12 seconds. When the students who could not believe that a car was made every 13 seconds visited the factory, they simply nodded their heads. At the Hyundai Motors factory, they always do road tests on fully assembled cars. The most important part of a car is the engine. The power created from the engine is delivered to the wheels to make the car move forward. The next most important things are the brakes, which bring the car to a stop. And the most efficient brake systems will actually bring the car to a stop even when the weather conditions make it seem impossible. Nowadays, even when driving on sheets of ice, a car does not slip when ABS brakes are used. However, when I was young, cars did not have the best braking systems. Back then, there would be a wire that you would pull on the brakes so that when you stepped on the brakes, it was similar to stepping on the brakes when riding a bicycle. Therefore, even though you stepped on the brakes, the car would often slip. If you were in a truck going downhill that had a lot of cargo, no matter how much you stepped on the brakes, the truck would continue to slip. Therefore, oftentimes the driver would have to literally stand up and pull on the steering wheel as he stepped down hard on the brakes. While the engine is the part of the car that causes the car to go fast, the car is able to go fast because it has brakes. With brakes, even though the car is travelling at its highest speed, it can come to a stop when there are objects in front of it. On the other hand, Without brakes, the car cannot come to a sudden stop. Even though the engine may be strong, if the brakes don't work properly, the car can't be driven. It is now a dangerous machine. Of course, good cars need to be able to travel fast, but they also need to be able to stop when they have to. It is for this reason that the technicians pair the engine against the brakes during the final road tests. When they step on the accelerator as much as possible and then apply the brakes, should the car stop or continue moving? It should stop. The brakes must defeat the engine. Then it is a safe car.